Hello, everybody. Craig Sherwood here with you from My Burbank Talks. And now we've been doing podcasts for about a year. We have knocked down over 100 podcasts in our first year doing this. People are asking, how are you doing this? What'd you come up with the equipment? Where all the questions that people have. And I'm going to share with you how I put together our studio and the equipment I'm using. And hopefully, if you're looking to put together a podcast studio and you don't have a lot of money to spend, then some of these tips might help you. So we'll get together here and go over all these items. Now, I'm putting descriptions of everything below with links to them in our description below. I set up an account with Amazon where if you are to buy something and you click on one of those links below, won't cost you any more money, but I guess they throw a little, they wet our beak a little bit with something. I don't know. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully, if you do want to buy something, use one of the links below and help us out. It would be appreciated. Because you know what? We sure don't make a lot of money doing this. Let's start off with the most important thing you're going to need. And that's your mixing board. Can't do a podcast without a mixing board. I looked at a lot of boards and, I went through a lot of YouTube videos for everything. Some videos you can tell were sponsored. Some, I'm not sure that people really cared that much. We're just trying to put videos out to make content. But there are videos out there who are really very instructional and very well informed, which I appreciated, which is why I'm doing this. Hopefully I can help people with what I learned. And none of this, I don't get sponsored for any of this stuff. I mean, this is just a service I'm going to try to provide to help people out. So take it and leave it as you see fit. But there's a couple of boards that were out there, the Rhodes and the Tascam board. I went with the Tascam board, the Tascam Mixcast 4. I liked what I saw. It looked easy to use. I had no experience with the board, how to really work one and the functionality of it and everything else. But it looked like it was user-friendly. But it came out with something I thought was very impressed with. And that's the software that comes with it. Software that will hook up to your laptop or whatever you want to use. And it gives you that secondary safety net. So, yes, it records into the board, but I can also record onto my laptop. So I have the same show in twice, basically. So if something happens on one show, I can go to the other and use it. But the Mixcast software gives you all the channels. And it makes it very easy to edit it later, to do a lot of things that'll make your podcast sound better. And it's very simple. And the software became the selling point for me. Let's move on to the microphone. Because, let's face it, without microphones, you're not talking to anybody. Nobody can hear you. I got tree in the forest with nobody around. Do you make that sound if nobody's around? Well, same with the microphone. We need the microphones. We went and once again looked at a lot of microphones, and the prices vary from $75 to $400, even higher. The microphones we went with around $100 or so. It's the Audio-Technica AT2020 Mic. Once again, I have links below for you. And we found these mics sound great. I'm not sure you need to spend $300, $400, $500 on a microphone if you're in a controlled setting like we are here. So, good microphones. We're very happy with them. Well, and we'll talk about the room for a second, too. The room is an old bedroom here in my house. In fact, it's a bedroom I grew up in. Not very big, but we grabbed a kitchen table and some chairs and brought that in here and set up a 4-station podcast platform here. So we bought 4 of everything when we bought things. So there are 4 stations in here, which we thought would be a good mix of things. In fact, the room is, if you take a look at the room a little bit, you can see that the room is right now, it's empty and nobody else in here but me. So you're stuck with me for the next 10 minutes or so. Let's move on here a little bit. Headphones. Once again, I went a little more expensive on the headphones because I wanted to make sure we had a good sound on the headphones, and I like the over-the-ear headphones compared to the other ones people use. So we went with the Sennheiser headphones. they've worked well for us. Now remember, everything we're using here is a year old. So it's been through 100 podcasts, and everything here has been standing up very well. I'm very happy with. The mic booms, the things that we had to put the mics into. I went with the Gator Mic Boom. I like the look of it. I watched a lot of podcasts, and sometimes you can see the arms were kind of flimsy, and there were cables hanging everywhere. But the cable goes right inside the boom here, and it looks a very professional type look to it. So I like the look of it, and that's why I went with it. Maybe that's a little more than I probably should spend, but sometimes aesthetics, I think, are important. Well, let's move on here. When we put the room together, one of the problems was we had a little bit of an echo in here. So I thought to myself, well, how are we going to, we need to put some pads in. Of course, we found the Fstop Labs acoustic panels. They're 2x12 with 12 in a pack. They're foam panels. And here was the funny thing, that when I originally bought these, I bought the first pack just to see what it was all about. And it was a very small package. And I'm going, hey, wait a second. I'm supposed to be big foam panels here. Well, you look at them and you pull them out of the package, and there's instructions. Put some water on them, and then you put them in your dryer, and voila, amazing panels. So we got the spray for them, and we just started putting panels up, and I wound up buying 4 or 5 packages of 12, and we put them all through the room here, and it's a great sound. And once again, not very expensive to really soundproof the room. So I think we saved some money there and had a good result. I have a window in the room too. So one of the things we had to do, we got a blackout shade. So we got it, made to order for the room. And once again, I think it's something that, if you're going to do video in your room, you really don't want sunlight or whatever is outside, kind of creeping in, so you want to have a controlled room. So we got a blackout shade. Let's move on a little bit here as I kind of scatter my notes around. Lighting, we went with an Aputure lantern softbox, which you hung here in the middle of the room. And then we got the Amaran LED video lights for our background. One of our people who works at my Burbank works in lighting for the studios, and said, you should do a backlighting. And I'm going, well, how are we going to do backlighting? He said, well, let me tell you. And we bought 4 blue or LED lights, and we set to blue and put those on the roof and just kind of point those toward the gray wall. And it gives us a great backlighting. And the lantern, we hung right over the top. We used the shades on it, so it only points light really down and out toward the people. And once again, it works really well. I got a little fancy, and I actually hooked it up to our Alexa system. And so actually when I leave the room after a podcast, I can just say, computer, turn off studio. And there we go. We're in the dark. So, computer, turn on studio. Let there be light. And then there was light. So that's a little fun thing to have, but it makes it, a little easier than going around turning on different lights and everything else. Let's move on to probably now the first 2-3 months, we didn't do anything with video because I want to make sure the podcast worked first. And then people said, you need to put this on YouTube also. Now, I'm not the biggest YouTube fan in the world as far as wanting to be on camera and all that, but that's where the audience kind of is. So I decided to make the investment in cameras. Now the problem was, what cameras do we get? And that's a toughie. And I thought we did what we did most economically, because a lot of people are using SRR cameras and the 35 millimeter cameras, and they're very crisp and they're very good. But boy, they're also like $1,000 a camera, and that's pretty expensive. So I went with wireless cameras. And once again, looking at a lot of things. And I'm going to take the advantage of these too. So we went with the Mevo wireless cameras. We've actually got 8 of them set up here in the podcast studio, with a 9th one that we have actually here it's on a little tripod. We use that as a mobile type camera. And we put 8 of them mounted here in the room, which gives us, in fact, we'll show you a couple angles here. Here's our station, position 2, position 3, position 4. A look at the room from that direction. A look at the room from this direction. A look at the room from over to my shoulder. And a look at the room facing me. So, small room, but a lot of camera coverage. The Mevo camera system works fantastically. Number one, there's no wires involved. It's wireless. I will recommend this, though. I will, in my notes here I put down, if you're going to get a system like a wireless system like that, I recommend, number one, you have a good internet connection. We go through Charter here, and we have the 1 gig, the most that they offer. So we have the 1 gig here. And then I went to trying to figure out, the best router to have to make sure that it carried all the video and everything. We went with the TB-Link Deco Tri-Band Wi-Fi 6E. And let me tell you what, the 6E system is phenomenal. The whole house has great coverage. Bought a couple nodes. In fact, I put a node inside the studio here, and everything works seamlessly now. We don't have cutoffs. The only time we don't have internet is if Charter has a hiccup. And of course, in all honesty, they haven't had many hiccups. We've never had a show interrupted yet on a Charter not having internet connection. So, of course, watch what happens next week, probably, right? So we thought that was the Mevo cameras were the way to go. And we bought mounts for all the cameras, and we got different mounts for them. And we had to decide on where to put them too, because we've actually put some on the table that are basically our close-up cameras for everybody. And as you saw, we put them on the walls to show, when we have a group talking or something like that, or have a conversation between a couple people. Probably more than we need, but it didn't hurt. So we actually are running an 8-camera system inside the studio, and I use the 9th camera occasionally. We use when the old dog comes in, and we call it the Dodger Cam, and throw them on cameras. One of the guests brings in something they want to show. We can use that to put on them. So that works pretty well. But the Mevo Cam also, and here's the big thing. Once again, not just a product, it's what you get with the product. And you get their software. And we have the software hooked up to our pad. And I'll get into the pad in a second here, but I use a Samsung pad. But all the cameras are, once again, they're wireless, and they go through the internet, and of course the pad is wireless too. So they record onto your pad. And you can do all your camera switching live as you go. And that way you're not having to take all your videos out separately, take all the cards out separately, all the cameras have cards if you want to use them. But you can do your editing as you go. So when the podcast is over, all you got to do is maybe put a tile in front and whatever you want to do to it, but you don't have to worry about trying to get all the different camera shots or getting into, buy editing software where you have to then go through and switch every camera every time somebody else is talking and sync them all up and all those things. So it's really, really good software, and it lets you stream. We actually can stream it. When we do shows, we actually stream live to both X, and to the YouTube channel at the same time. We used to do it to Facebook, but that's why we get errors. I think it's through Facebook is putting all kinds of security in or something, but it'll let you go to actually do a lot of different platforms. So very good software. And once again, not just the functionality of the cameras, but it's what you get also with the software. And I'm a big fan. Now, it goes 1080p. It does not go 4K. But do you really need to go 4K on YouTube? Do you really need to go 4K? You're really going to see, I got enough spots on my face and warts and everything else. I don't need to have 4D definition of those things. Just don't need it. Anyhow. So we've got the camera mounts for it. Got a table stand also. And the table stand is good for the pad. And once again, gives you the ability to have things close for you to be able to do what you want to do as you're going. And it's just a nice little table stand. Now, another nice little toy to have is the Elgato Stream Deck. You don't need it. You don't really have to have it. But we got it, and I like to have a few bells and whistles. And what that does is, while the Tascam board is nice, and we use it, we put our commercials on there, we put our opening, our closing, and all those things. You push a button, and boom, off they go. But the Elgato Stream Deck lets you put little sound bites, and it's a face that has 32 little gizmos on it, little buttons. And then you can change pages and add another 32, and then change pages, add another 32, and go on and on and on, depending what you want to do. But if I want to really quickly, I hear something funny and I want to give a quick little rim shot or something, or we do our word of the week and we want to have our horn, real simple to push a button. So while you don't need it, it's nice to have. Let's move on here. I'll throw out a couple other things for you that we have that are kind of fun to have, and you don't really need them. But if you're gonna put together a studio, why not do a couple extra little things? And they're really not that expensive things. One was with a big oversized, the Ovation huge 24-inch, large, big oversized digital LED clock. We put that on the wall because when the podcast starts, it gives you an idea of how much time you're going. You can also put just the time and date onto it. You can make it a countdown timer, but we use it just to, it counts the time we're on the air so the guests can see it, or, if I'm running the studio, whoever's hosting it can have an idea of how much time they're on the air. Kind of a neat thing to have. Got some pop filters for the microphones. We thought those were very necessary to have, of course. We put in a refrigerator into the studio. Now, when I have guests come in, they might want to have, they might want to wet their beak a little bit. So we have drinks for them, and waters and soft drinks, and I think there's some beers in there. So I think it's more of a hospital. It's more hospitality. We want people to enjoy the experience here. So we had to put a little coffee station in too, and it looks nice. We actually bought a second board, and we do podcasts remotely. We bought a second board, so we have to pull all the cables and everything off the main studio. And I got Audio-Technica once again. We got their communication headsets. And they work great. So you have a microphone and the headphone all together, and they work great. And you could probably just use those also without using, microphones and booms and everything else if you want to save some money. So that's another way to go also if you don't do the traditional microphone. What else we have here? Two things that I spent money on that I thought was necessary. Because once again, some things I think you need to spend the money on to make sure that they're done right. And one of those things was a pad. I needed a pad to record the video onto. And I went with the Samsung Galaxy Tab S9. The large pad. I got the maximum memory, the maximum everything into it. And yeah, it runs a few dollars, but let me tell you what, this has worked great. The pad has been fantastic. It records the shows. I can probably put 20, 25 shows on here. And then before I have to, clear them off. So it holds a lot. So we're really happy with that. The other thing I thought was very important too, was a good laptop computer. And I went Samsung again, because I have a Samsung phone, so I like the product. So I went with the Samsung Galaxy Book Pro. Once again, a good laptop. I like the pad and laptop also. If we ever do go remotely, you can take them both with us, and they you don't need battery, you don't need power for them. So you can still have take your laptop with you. But once again, I want to make sure the show is recorded well. That's important for me. So, anything else I have in here? Not a lot of other things. If you have comments or you have questions, then leave it in the comments for me, and I'll get back to you. I'll let you know what I think, or maybe what I've done wrong. If you think I've done something wrong, or I've done right. If you like some of this stuff and you can buy it through the description below, I'd appreciate it. I'm not sure how much I get. For all I know, I get 1%. Who knows? I really, it doesn't matter that much, but I just thought I would make it easier for you to find things. And that way I didn't have to give you exactly the name properly, so you look on Amazon. This way you just can click on it and go to it and take a look at it there. So that's about it. We appreciate, for our usual listeners and watchers. We appreciate it. And one last thing, besides YouTube, I also went with Buzsprout for our podcast hosting. And once again, the reason I went to that after finding a lot of different things out there was they have it. The service you have is you upload to their website, and they put it on every podcast platform for you. Apple, Spotify, Google, you name it, Amazon, all of them. They put the podcast and everything. So Buzzsprout we found the way to go. And I'll put a link to that also, and it costs us, you can get plans for like $10 a month. So if you want to do a podcast or two a month, you can get very small plans. And once again, it's worth it instead of trying to go to and upload it separately to every single podcast platform out there. So anyhow, that's it. I hope I've helped somebody. Like I said, we're not a professional video production crew here. We're just a bunch of guys who enjoy doing this. We enjoy our weekly shows. We like putting the news out. We like talking about Burbank and talking about what goes on in our city. But anybody out there across the country, across the world who appreciates this, let us know. We appreciate the comment. As I say, give the video a like. And we're trying to get all that kind of stuff because one of our goals once again is to get monetized on YouTube. So maybe YouTube will pay us some money for these videos, but that's down the line, and we're still probably 400 subscribers away and all that stuff. So we appreciate everything. Once again, Craig Sherwood here saying thank you very much. We appreciate it. And anything I can do to help you, please don't hesitate to ask. Thanks again.